Gang's all here. What do you think of the new intro, guys?
I love that intro, but of everybody there, if you know me, I don't smile that much. I'm the curmudgeon dude.
Dude, I always thought you were the happy warrior.
Nope, no, I'm a warrior. I ain't happy though.
Well, welcome to episode 13, the Due North Political. That means we've been at this a half a year, guys.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Anyhow, we start the show with Jobs of Rubio because he's always a busy man, and I like to surprise you guys. First one is we had a problem in Spain with some illegal immigrants, so he's a conquistador.
Conquistador.
And then we had issues. Supposedly, people were wondering if Trump had started wearing a wig. So Rubio didn't want to make him feel alone.
Yep.
Have you seen some of the memes with him and like Vance and Hegseth, and they all got big hair, like 80s hair? Yeah, that's pretty funny. And then on the last one, of course, we've got a problem in the WNBA. We've got
God.
I like the ribbon.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. Nice touch.
Nice touch.
Perfect.
So, okay, we're going to jump right into our first segment. We usually call that My 2 Cents. And here we go. Here's my topic for tonight, guys. The war in Iran is now over 5 months old, and we all agree we need to win it. Not so sure we are, but we need to. Lyndon Johnson had a war on poverty. Nancy Reagan had a war on drugs. History proves neither was very successful. Name a domestic problem that we need to declare war on and win, like now. Ryan, you get to go first.
I guess my war would be we need to have a war on taxes. Taxes keep going up as a result of out of control spending by our governments, both at the federal and local levels. Looking at the local level, a lot of these spending increases have nothing to do with the core services that a government needs to provide its citizens, but it's rather due to out of control spending on various social issues and projects. Recently, or this last week here in Minnesota, the city of Minneapolis, the Mayor Fry suggested that property taxes are going to have to be raised upwards of 12% next year. And that's on top of cutting 200 city government positions just to meet their budget. Here in Minnesota, I pay 9.85% individual income tax. I pay $750 for my vehicle tab fees. I pay over 8% sales tax in the Twin Cities metro area. I pay another 0.5% sales tax or payroll tax for 12 weeks paid time off for all the other workers here in the state. And now Democrats are even talking about raising the sales tax rate another 0.4% to cover affordable housing and homeless preventive initiatives. And for what? Not one of these taxes that I pay contribute to my life or well-being. I could be living in North Dakota, the same as you guys, and my quality of life would not be any less than it is here in Minnesota. But yet I pay all this extra tax, and you guys get to live in North Dakota and pay a lot less tax, which would be great. I'd argue that it'd probably be even better if I lived in North Dakota, just from a way of life, just because I'd be able to keep more money in my own pocket. So I think that's where we need to have the rest of the next war is on taxes.
Ryan doesn't sound like the happy warrior that we're used to, does he?
No, whenever you talk about taxes, whenever you look at that paycheck, I get it.
Mike, which war do you think we need to fight and win? domestically?
Well, I mean, Ryan's is an excellent one, but I think we need to declare a war on fake news. And, one of my biggest pet peeves is looking at a headline which draws attention to something, and then you click on it only to find out that the reality in the story is obviously not what the headline leads you to believe. Now, if everybody actually took the time and read the entire article and then compared it to other news sources, you would find that each of them varies. And depending on who is writing it, you can get two completely different views of what actually happened. But you can't have two different stories if you are only reporting facts. So let me just give you an example. Now, this could be fun, not quite as fun as Mr. Bookman that Ryan had last time on our last episode. Just go with me on this for a second. But let's just say a guy by the name of Peter Piper went out to the community garden and harvested his row of pickled peppers. So the real news is Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. However,
I didn't catch that. Can you one more time? I didn't catch that last piece.
The part where I said Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers?
Okay, yeah, we got it.
Okay, got it. So now that we got that straight. So now I'm going to compare that to how the media works nowadays. Okay, here's how you're going to see it reported online in the newspapers and such. One source is going to tell you that a raging environmentalist activist robs entire food supply from starving community. But then you look at another source, and it's going to say local philanthropist Peter Piper donates entire food supply to local community. So in this case, you ask, what is the real news? I mean, you're going to have one side believing you have a thief that is taking food right out of the mouths of babies for his own gain, and the other side I believe that old Mr. Piper grew food to feed starving children in his community. But which one is accurate? The truth is neither one of them is accurate because they both have their spin. And the real news is that old Petey just grew some food in a garden and picked it. That's it, nothing more. The media needs to stop putting their own spin on everything and just report the facts, because there is only one truth. There can't be more than one truth. People can make up their own minds as to what Pete was using the food for, but just stop with the antics. I know it's probably impossible to fix this, but media spin, in my opinion, is one of the biggest divisive issues in our country, and I would really like to see us declare war on it and stop it.
Mike, is that a war that needs to be battled, won locally as well as nationally? Or
it has to go top to bottom. Top to bottom. Every news outlet people need to hear what is the actual thing that happened. Just report what happened and don't put your spin on it, because it's when people put the spin on it, start taking sides. And that's why it's causing so much divisiveness. And that's really not where we need to be nowadays.
You made a comment, or the word you used earlier in your discussion here was reporter. Today, I don't think we have reporters. We don't have journalists. They are all opinionated. They're all, opinionists. There is no reporting of fact. As you said, it's all their own spin. So they are no longer reporters like when we grew up. They are just opinionated columnists.
Yeah, I would agree. There's very few what I would call investigative journalists out there anymore. There are still some that actually go out and try to find the facts and just report the facts. But I think it comes from their parent companies. They're told that, this is what you're going to say. And you don't need to go out and investigate. This is what you're going to say. No matter what you video or what you write, this is what you're going to say.
The independent journalist is probably the only journalist that exists anymore, right? The Nick Shirley's, who's the more famous guy? O'Keefe.
O'Keefe, yeah.
Guys like that. Yeah, they might be the only guys that are breaking news. I mean, there's people like that around the country, but like you said, if you work for a corporation, you're coming with a preconceived notion.
Yeah.
You can see video clips where they'll have the news media from all over the country, but it's owned by the same corporation. And like on their nightly news, they're all using the same like 5 words to describe the topic.
I've seen that montage, and maybe that's it. The monopoly that has become the news industry. There's definitely a monopoly there, and we used to bust those things up, but now, handful of guys control it.
You see it even just take something so minute as the Stephanie Cunningham thing. I think that's her name, right? She comes out and says, "Yes, this person
Sophie
right here,
Cunningham.
Sophie." There you go.
Oh no, you didn't.
But she comes out and says boys shouldn't be in girls sports, and every sports writer, I think, is it 99.8% of sports writers must be liberal. I mean, you have to get with the program or this cannot be allowed. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
Remember when ESPN used to just have Sports Center, and now they have to take a. Yeah, yep. I don't even watch it anymore either.
Leon, what war does domestically do we need to win, and now?
I'd say the war for our posterity, our kids. So I see it's multi-layered war. The war on the indoctrination mills that are masquerading as public schools. I mean, we spent generations handing our kids over to a system that treats the Bible like radioactive waste while pumping them full of gender fluid, racial grievance, and your parents are the problem. Test scores are cratering right now. Mental health is collapsing all over the place, and the only metric that goes up is the number of bureaucrats and activists with 6-figure salaries. LBJ's poverty on war just grew the welfare state, and this one grows the dependency on the state as a parent. The education, I call it the cartel, is just that. It's like the enemy occupation that it is. We need to defund the dogma, restore parental authority, and make the classroom a place where reading, writing, and arithmetic beat identity theater. And then the next step in that same war is the war on the sexual chaos machine that is targeting our kids. Drag queen story hour, puberty blockers as healthcare, pornography, algorithmically delivered to 12-year-olds. That's not progress in my humble opinion. It's predation with a rainbow sticker. The same cultural elites who lost the war on drugs somehow think that chemical castration and early sexualization will produce healthier adults. That's crazy. And then the last front in that war is the war on fatherlessness and the deliberate dismantling of the nuclear family, like poverty, crime, academic failure, generational government dependency, all track one factor harder than any other. Kids raised without a married mom and dad in the home. That's the thing. The Great Society declared a war on poverty and ended up subsidizing the very behaviors that create it. We need a war that cements stable marriages as the default and single parenthood as the exception, not the celebrated lifestyles. Foreign wars can be won with steel and resolve. These domestic wars require the same clarity. Name the enemy, stop funding the enemy, and refuse to negotiate with the people who profit from the rubble. That's my 2 cents on that.
Leon, you mentioned, Leon, you mentioned about the algorithms that are put into online content and such, and the indoctrination of kids. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I just saw it recently where somebody had posted that he basically just said, "Watch this. I want to show you this." And he went to YouTube and he said, "If you're a kid and you started out with a cartoon, and these were just YouTube clips." He said, if you just let it play and then just keep clicking next, he said, it doesn't matter what you start with, it always ends up with some sort of like pornographic material or I mean, no matter what subject you start with, it always ends up there, and the algorithms just continuously push it towards that. I mean, that was scary. if your kids are all watching YouTube and they start all watching Barney, the next thing you know, they could be, OnlyFans would be the last one after 10 or 12 videos that they watch. So yeah, that's scary. I mean, I agree with that part, Leon. I mean, we got to look at what these online content that is getting out to our kids.
It's guys like me. I'm done with the whole thing. We homeschool Eli. Eli is dirty, got scratches and cuts all over him, dirty knees, dirty fingernails. Right now he's outside with the little TM22 shooting prairie dogs. Right now, I hear him. And that's the way that's the way you raise your kids. Whatever the hell they're doing in public schools is demonstrably not working. Demonstrably. Our kids from a couple generations ago, they built the greatest society ever. And then we got soft. And then we let these people get in our kids' heads. Like Rush used to say, little minds of mush, moldable. And that's what they've done. And we wonder why this thing is falling off the rails. You take a camera and a mic, and you just go to any college and you shove that mic into anyone's face and just ask them something that every kid would know like 2 generations ago. They're clueless. Hey, what continent is Arizona in? Mexico?
Georgia?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I go back to, remember COVID? And so the kids were going to start doing streaming for school. You know what I mean? And the adult, I'll even go so far as we just had a law in North Dakota where we took away the cell phones in schools, right?
Yep.
Duh.
Yeah.
Really? Did you ever think that was a good idea? You know what I mean? But somebody.
The Karens, though, the Karens right now are going, we can't. What if where is there just an emergency? My kid needs to. No. I'm sorry.
Do you want them to learn or not?
Yeah.
And the same thing with the online streaming. The adult, he didn't want to be inconvenienced because we got to get this COVID shot. Otherwise, it's going to. So we're going to. But the kids are going to be resilient and they're going to be fine. Yeah, you just tell yourself that so you can sleep at night. But
no, they say that not for themselves to sleep at night, but for us to sleep at night. It
has nothing to do with the kids. Yep. You're dooming them to failure, but you want to think you're a good parent, so you tell them that. Yep. You know what I mean? It's just self-delusion, so that way you don't have to pop a pill to feel good about yourself. You just keep convincing yourself. Self-help. It's like that. What's that Saturday Night Live? Gosh darn it, I like myself. I'm a good enough.
I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
And that's the way it is. But we're adults, and we're the problem.
Yep.
And they're the sacrifice. You know what 100%. I mean? And it just, they're fine in education. As long as we have more boys traveling sports teams, our kids will continue to learn. Yeah. That's it. That's the ticket. I mean, seriously.
And we took our eye off the ball big time with that.
Perry, mentioning the cell phone bill, I voted in favor to get rid of the cell phones during the last session. And afterwards, I got some nasty phone calls from not only some parents, but also from some teachers and such. And I said, you know what? It's the second day of school. Give it a chance. And a couple of the parents and one of the teachers actually contacted me afterwards and said, I have to admit, after this is all said and done, we're used to it now. And this is like a week afterwards. They said, this is the greatest thing you guys probably ever did. So, yeah, I think that was a great move. And you're right. We got to start concentrating on what's important. They don't need to have a cell phone with them 24 hours a day.
I have one thing I'm proud of as a parent. My kids were the last ones to get cell phones. One thing.
Same here.
I regret as a parent, I ever let them play a PlayStation game. I wish I'd never done that.
My daughter must never use her cell phone because I text her and I'll call her and I won't get a call back or response for, like 6-7 hours. So she must never be on her phone.
Yeah, that's by choice, Ryan. I guarantee it.
Okay, guys, we're going to bring Michelle in. Leon, you're going to introduce her. She's in for our hot seat spotlight tonight. Here she comes. There she is.
I'm stoked to introduce my friend, Michelle Turnberg. She's currently serving as a Fargo City Commissioner, one of the most conservative up there, fiscally conservative and conservative like across the board. And she's honored to represent her friends and her neighbors and the rest of the city every day. I see the videos of the council meetings, and she's the one with the mom face when the liberals are talking. She's like, "Are you? How can you be this dumb?" She's the gal, and I wanted her to be mayor. And I don't think she's given up that fight, but I think she would make an awesome mayor because we need conservative folks like Michelle Turnberg to. It's going to be a heavy lift. Fargo's in a lot of trouble. Michelle's been like trumpeting the problems for a very long time, and it's falling on deaf ears. But hopefully, she can turn that around. But anyway.
Welcome
Please.
to the hot seat spotlight.
Yeah, welcome to the. I tend to get a little wordsy. I'm sorry. Welcome, Michelle Turnberg, to the hot seat.
We're going to test you, Leon, with your
Thank you,
questions.
Leon.
We're going to test your wordiness with your questions, but you're going to have to wait for a couple of us other guys first. We're going to fire some questions at Michelle. Mike, you get to go first. What's your question for Michelle?
Sure. Michelle, recently you posted a picture. This was right after the election, a picture of you and Mayor Boschee talking about working together, even though you're on opposite sides of the aisle. I was really happy to see that. I'm a big unity guy. I served in the legislature with Josh for 2 sessions, and I found him to be hardworking, effective, easy to work with, even though we disagreed on many issues. So my question to you is, do you have the same confidence that I did? You can work together and advance good policy for Fargo?
I'm curious where this idea of not working together came up. It's been brought up in debates, in the mayoral campaign, and then with your question, I mean, when in history have we not worked together, even prior to election, and even moving forward now? The one goal is to better Fargo. So I'm curious why people think we wouldn't be working together towards that. There'll be some issues that I will bring up. I'm sick and tired of needles being all over the city and enabling drug addicts to continue their usage. And is he going to vote with me on that? You'll have to him on that. But there are things like that where I stand firm. But I also stand firm with this budget needs to be focused on services and stop the social service spending. We have an endless pot of money. Don't know why people are standing with their hands out like we're some charitable organization. City government is not the place for city government to do half the things they're doing. And that's why we're so far in debt. It needs to stop. And we need to be smarter about how we're spending.
That segues into my question for you. So we have you're on the city commission. We have a few new members of the Fargo City Commission. You just went through the budget process. Do you think there's a new emphasis or a new focus, or is it the same old, same priorities, and then we just changed a couple chairs? What came out of that budget discussion that you learned?
Well, we're still in the thick of the budget. So only the preliminary budget has been passed, and that just means that the spending cannot go up. It can only go down. But I didn't see any initiative to reduce spending truly with what's been proposed to us. Where we don't need to spending is with our core services and first responders. So when the Fargo Police Department asks for 8 more officers, we give them 8 more officers, not 4. We don't need other bloated departments that are doing focused on things that aren't core services. By core services, I mean things that you are unable to do as a resident on your own. So that's police and fire protection. That's water that comes out of your sink. That's toilets that flush, utilities, streets that are safe to drive on, snow plows that come out in the winter, core cities. The rest needs to be cut. We're in that situation, and I do not see how people are not more adamant about getting out the pen and crossing off requests. So we're still in the thick of it. We've got finance meetings coming up. I'm not nearly where this budget needs to be. I have a lot of ideas and I'm trying to offer them. It's a lot of work to do. This isn't offering any relief to citizens. It's not offering any relief to your taxes. We need to cut. And truly, your property taxes, if you're really concerned about them, you need to be reaching out to your school board members, because the city of Fargo is less than 30% of your property taxes. Your schools are more than 50%. And that's the biggest chunk of what you're paying. So keep in mind, the park board is separate from the city, is separate from the schools, is separate from the county. And each one is trying, I would hope, to do their best to cut and give relief to our residents.
Leon, okay, let's hear your wordy questions. Let's see how wordy you get.
What do you mean wordy?
Well,
I'm a
it was your word. It was your description.
Right, I'm sorry. You guys, I'm a big fan, Michelle. Always have been. But the one issue that we don't agree on is your opposition to the ward system proposal. I want you, and I'm not going to be wordy, I want you to convince me why it's a bad system. Why do you think it's a bad system?
Well, what is broken right now? That's what I'm curious about. What is so broken that we need to change our whole governance policy for our city? If you're worried about representation, the representation is spread throughout the city. This cost Fargo taxpayers hard costs $50,000 up to $100,000. When you look at, we don't have any electronic ballot machines. This group decided to do it in a way where we have a special election where only 7 people historically will come out to vote, rather than putting it on the November ballot where you would have 45% people voting on in your governance. And to me, this is a very sneaky way of doing it. It's costing you money. It's going to cost the city more because we're adding more people. I don't see that anything is broken. We did have a ward system over 100 years ago, and Fargo said this isn't working and this isn't what we want. Right now, you can vote for commissioners, the group one, to, because every one of those commissioners will vote on every issue of your city. Going forward, you only have one person, even though that person will vote on the entire city and has to know the entire city. So to me, this is going down the road. Is we want to emulate Minneapolis? Do we want to be the new Chicago? Is that what we're trying to do? Because that's the feeling I get from the people behind this ballot measure.
Oof. Oh my God.
Are you convinced?
You brought some fire with you there. What do you say? So again, I've had Tony on. Tony. Tony liked you. What do you say to the folks that say an at-large at-large elections favor certain areas or higher campaign costs? And that the ward system would improve accountability and representation. I know you mentioned that, but I don't know. Tony was a little convincing. He was kind of convincing. And another thing. So I understand your position. I know that you are just as stubborn as I am. You just look better being stubborn. But if
We agree.
100%. if it passes in October, what's your approach to implementing it or working within that new system? And if it fails, is there any reforms to this current system, the current structure, would you support?
We absolutely need to change this election June to November. To me, is the biggest. June, people are thinking about pontoons. They're not going to the polls. And our recent election shows that it is an embarrassment that the mayor of Fargo was elected by 10,000 people in a city the size of 141,000. That's ridiculous. This needs to be moved to November. That, I think, is first and foremost and is what should be done. And you would have a much better representation of what the citizens of Fargo want, because that's when more people will go to the polls. They're not going in June. And statistically, and people who are so head over heels over data, that is proven.
Yep.
November, when more people are going to the polls and focused on elections rather than the silly election that we have. That will take some collaboration with our state legislators. So I think that's really important. What is really troubling to me is you don't even know what you're they to sit on it to figure where the boundaries behind people pushing for this. You know, it can make your mind spin and like, what are you know, is this elected? Is this to get more of your people in office? What are you trying to do? Because this seems like as a you have less of a voice. What they're saying is that it gives you more of a voice. You're picking one person that represents you. Right now, you can talk to 5 different people that represent you. Now you're moving one. And what if you're a horrible candidate pool? What if you have one candidate that is the exact opposite of your beliefs? Stuck with that. It's just so many things. And I think the way it's drafted, you're having a special election cost over $100,000. October 6th, when less than a month we could do it on the November ballot for extra cost is ridiculous. And this is by a million paper cuts he has incurred the last several years. 10,000 here, 10,000, 100,000 here. Oh, it doesn't matter in this. That's nothing. It all adds up. And this to me is a travesty that they're spending this money on a system that isn't broken. Now, if we wanted to, we could add 2 more commissioners, still back in spend mode. Our budget isn't really in a place where we're in a position to spend, but then at least you're voting for who you want. And those people in the city where you're stuck voting for one person who will still vote for the entire city. So it frustrates me.
Well, I need you to tell me how you really feel, Michelle.
I feel I'm transparent.
You mentioned earlier.
I think I'm pretty transparent.
This is my last question. You mentioned earlier that I forget the topic we were on, but you said I don't know how this gets out there, how this gets misrepresented. So anything you want to leave our listeners with, like anything about your service, your priorities. Well, you just kind of went through the whole ward debate, but anything that they may feel, or you may feel that was misrepresented about you and your positions, and you want to clarify that. And you can just take as long as you want. I'm going to overrule Perry on this.
Well, people get, awfully brave behind a keyboard. And, it's a time for people to come back attack, especially on social media, whenever we post issues or post things or try and communicate with the public. And I sometimes baffles the amount of people who are so upset or so just my stances are so the best for Fargo. First and foremost, I want the best for Fargo. I want our citizens to save money and be stewards of their money and spend. I want to put public and foremost, so you are not only feeling safe home, in your neighborhood, at work, you feel your children are safe. I want to focus on core city services. We have programs and federal programs for things. You do not need to be donating 3 times to programs that, do you want to me your money for the year and I'll decide where, or do you want to decide yourself? To me, that's what we should cut all of them out and focus on matters for the city, for cutting our taxes, for being mindful of spending as creating that we possibly can, rather than spending frivolous on social programs and charitable contributions that should be a decision for each person. I want what's best for the city. I guess if people get upset, I know why. I'm a good person. I'm really welcoming of all people.
Yep.
I listen to people every day. I go meet with people. Every single day I'm meeting with people. And they also say, oh, have you reached out to a commissioner? Have you reached out and told one of us what issue? Because we're not mind readers about a problem unless you tell. And so I get that all. And so I meet with people all the time, and that's how things are done. But it's got to be a two-way street.
You and Mike, you and Mike must have went to the same school. That's all.
I remember that too, Leon, when she said that. I think that was way back in episode 2. I think I asked you if you'd actually contacted your commissioners, and so
no,
yeah,
I've yelled at them.
Michelle.
I've yelled at them. I've ranted at them.
How effective
Ryan,
is that, Michelle, when you get someone yelling at you?
Ryan, you've got some receipts from the June election. Run them by.
And no one will say anything. Send unanimous no's or hide behind a fake profile on Facebook, but you want action and you want change all the time. They just don't come up in meetings and don't come up on the news. But residents have reached out. We don't want sidewalk in front of our businesses. Industrial part of town fixed it. We don't want sex offender building down the street and a women's shelter, fixed it. It could go on. The media hear about it. Residents don't always hear about it, but I will work to fix it. And that's how we get things done. But it's got to be a two-way street of communication. And if I don't know about it, there's nothing to do.
Michelle, from my perspective, I think you're too specific, and it just works better if you talk in the vanilla generalities that everybody else does, the normal politician, and then they can't. I think that evidently is what sells, and you can't hurt anybody's feelings that way. Ryan, you have one last question for her.
Yeah, you alluded to this earlier, Michelle, but or at least part of the question here. They say that the foundation of government begins at the local level, and in the recent Fargo mayoral election, just over 20,000 total votes were cast, which represented about a third of the eligible voters in Fargo. And of those eligible voters, only 16% of them cast a ballot for the winner, Josh Boucher. So compare this to a general election held in November, where the percentage of eligible voters casting ballots can get into the low 60% range. So nearly twice as many voters casting ballots as you see here in a June election. With a discrepancy like this, do you think it's a disservice to the voters and the community as a whole to have the local elections at a time of year when so few votes are cast for these important races, which lay the foundation of our government?
100%. This election should be. And like I said, we'll need to work with our state legislature to get that fixed. But I mean, if you go by the statistics of who signed up to vote, this doesn't even represent, our commission doesn't even represent the city. It represents what, 16% of the city? So we need to move it to November. I think that is much than some change of governance that group thinks is the be all end all that will the city of Fargo forever. You could have one family controlling a ward into infinity. I mean, be careful what you wish for, because this could be the setup of something that is not very, like I said, do we want to emulate Minneapolis, Chicago? Not me. I think Fargo is working just fine. 100 years ago, we figured out this is a better system. Here's that we're one of the bigger cities has it. It works for us. And just because it works for us and doesn't work for another city, it's not broke. Let's not fix it. So I 100% agree. This needs to move to November.
I think you have it right. The cart is ahead of the horse here. You first have to get people to vote and to the booth on election day before you start
100%.
redesigning a system where still nobody participates. What's the use of having a new system if nobody participates? One thing has to come before the other.
Let's spend some more and throw a handful of peas at the barn and see if they stick. This is dumb. Just spend, and see if if it works. If it doesn't work, then what? Spend some more and go back. This is dumb.
Anybody got anything else for her?
I just want to say, you see, I am pro Wards, but I'm also pro Michelle, and I have been for a very long time. And some folks just they can't wrap their brains around like this one thing. You know, I see in the comments there, Wards, Russian bot, you know, that whole thing. But the fact of the matter is,
please.
We can disagree on things. Yeah, I know. We can disagree on things, and we can have a debate.
I know fake profiles.
Yeah, we should do that for sure. But we can have a debate and still be friends. Yep. I'm gonna one of these days I'm gonna invite Michelle out, and we're gonna practice some Second Amendment fun, and we're gonna talk again.
Go and shoot.
And you know, yeah, we're gonna see if she can change my mind on the war.
Need to change your mind. Just, I think, but I love you. We don't.
Yeah, I'm only wrong.
We'll go
like I'm right 99.99% of the time. This could be the 1%, the 0.01% that I am wrong. Like, I'll give you that. But anyway.
So you're saying there's a chance. There's a chance Leon's wrong.
I know. I think I'm going to call
Michelle, we
Nicole
thank you
and
for
ask her
joining
what she
us. We thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming
you for
into the
having
Hot Seat
me.
Spotlight. We'll have you back, okay?
Love it.
Take care.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting time with you. It's always a good discussion.
See ya.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, guys, let's move on to continue the show. We're on to the Fire Away segment. Here's my premise.
Oh,
Ready? Mark Meckler recently posted that we need to stop pretending there are better people out there to elect that will actually solve problems. They may exist, but only at the margins. Not enough better people to make a legitimate difference. There's way too many grifters. The grifters outweigh the good people 10 to 1. Ryan, are we a long way from men who pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor? Is Mark correct that the founder types only exist at the margins? Do you agree with him?
I would agree with him that we've got very few founder types in the politics nowadays. At the time of our founding fathers, 250 years ago, there was one overriding question, and that was that they worked towards in answering everything they did. And that question was, what is best for the country? All of those men had differing opinions of what the best looks like, but they were all able to come together and come to an agreement at the end of the day, which was our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We don't have that anymore. We can't even get a continuing resolution passed to fund the government, without it government being shut down. I shudder to think what would have happened if our current politicians were around 250 years ago. Today's political parties could be boiled down to basically, yeah, WAMI may be bad, but we aren't as bad as the other guys. That sure is one hell of a platform, isn't it? Today's politics looks mostly at our politicians is looked mostly as a career, especially at the national congressional level. It's no longer let me serve 2 or 3 terms and see what we can accomplish before turning it over to the next person. It's if 2 terms or 8 years was good enough for George Washington, then it should be good enough for everybody else that comes after him. But as we've seen over and over again, with the most recent examples being the Mitch McConnells, the Chuck Grassley's, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Maxine Waters, they think it's their God-given right to serve until they die. These people only care about 3 things: their egos, their bank accounts, and doing anything to get reelected. If they actually cared about this country, they would have been gone a long time ago, but they don't. And the people of this country actually need to take the country back themselves, because those in Washington, unlike the founders, aren't doing it for the American citizens.
Guys, can we, based on history here, we have 60 years, I'm alive 60 years. Can we say that incumbency has been an abject failure? Has it not proven that this thing of just staying there, we have people heck, we can't even, Mitch McConnell hasn't been seen in like 45 days.
Yeah.
Can we just say objectively, it's proven, it's not subjective, incumbency has been a destruction?
Yep. I agree.
If
And
you
it
don't,
breeds
if you
the
disagree, tell me.
It breeds.
Go ahead.
Somebody.
Go ahead, Leon.
I was just going to say, you're 100% right. This is where the deep state comes from, right here. It comes from these incumbents that believe that it is their birthright to be there. Like you said, where's Mitch McConnell? Has anybody seen? You're so old, and your mental faculties have so declined that you can't stand up for like a 20-minute interview. Then we have a problem here. We have a problem. And you mentioned like back in the day, these were guys that went in, they had skin in the game. They went in, they did the best that they thought for the country, and then they went home. We don't have that anymore. It'd
be one thing if they were getting these amazing results.
Yeah.
But $40 trillion in debt, I keep saying it's like being the owner of the Yankees or the Dodgers. If you could just keep throwing money to win elections, well, that's an easy job, isn't it? Let's go if I get to keep voting for spending to help my constituents so that they vote for me, then we're $100 trillion in debt. What is hard about the job?
Yeah.
I blame a lot of these politicians, but I think there's got to be plenty of blame to be bestowed upon the American voter, because I would almost guarantee you that even after what we've seen from Mitch McConnell, or haven't seen of Mitch McConnell in the last 45 days, if he were running for re-election this November, odds-on favorite to win the election from the voters.
Guaranteed.
So
Guaranteed.
The voters are a problem too in this.
Mike, here's your question. It is said Ryan has a good segue there. It is said you get the government you deserve. But should we give citizens some credit here? It isn't easy to tell the pretender from the sincere person, is it? We've all been fooled by this. We go back to the Tea Party days. We go back to watching Tucker Carlson on Fox News. It is not there. I wanted to do it again. So It's not easy to tell the pretender from the sincere person, is it?
Well, you can't deny that you get what you vote for. That's for sure. And I've said it on the show before that I really wish all the voters, and I know some do, but I wish all voters would really do a deep dive into the candidates before they cast a vote. And I mean, you have candidates that announce for office, and the first thing the candidates have to do is delete their Twitter and their Facebook accounts. I mean, that should be sign number one, that they're hiding things they don't want you to see that you've posted. And now, especially with the rise of the Democratic Socialists of America, I mean, people they just really need to read some history lessons on socialism, how it has failed every single time that it has been implemented anywhere. They make it all sound good and rosy and such, but the harsh truth about socialism is that it destroys everything it touches. I would really love to see every school in the nation start teaching how bad socialism is, so when these students graduate, their minds aren't warped thinking about the warmth of collectivism, like our buddy Mamdani out in New York stated. Speaking of Mamdani, I've seen several reports now of people having buyer's remorse, or whatever you want to call it, after they voted for him, stating that this is not what I asked for. No, this is exactly what you asked for. You voted for it. He's delivering exactly what he said he was going to do. If you didn't do your homework, that's on you. It's actually pretty easy to tell the pretenders, like you call them, from the sincere people. I mean, the pretenders are going to go out there and promise you the world, fully knowing it's completely impossible. The voters just really need to do some homework, and it should be pretty easy to tell who's who.
I didn't know your answer, but I brought this photo tonight because I wanted, and Mike will let you comment on this, but look at this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They didn't realize that they're going to be the first ones eaten.
Yeah.
They thought they were going to come after me and you first, but they include everybody in that pile, and they're going to, power needs to exist, and to have power, you're going to have to take care of your rival first.
The smartest people in that group are the Islamists.
Yes.
And it's not even close. I mean, again, the Queers for Palestine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough said, right?
Yep.
Leon, your question. Mark's solution is a convention of states to place amendments in the Constitution to constrain / handcuff those elected. Is he right?
Oh, now when I was thinking about this question, like, dude, you couldn't have given me a harder question. You could not have given me a harder question.
Maybe it wasn't intentional.
You know that I am a huge Mark Levin fan, right? And I remember when he was going on and on and on about the Convention of States, and I was all on board. And then I got to talking to some of my, like a ton of my friends, and they had concerns about it. And we just argued for hours and hours. And then I kind of came around. There are some scary things when we're not talking about a limited scope constitutional convention in Article 5. I think his core, and it's odd too that Mark, but there you go. His core diagnosis has substantial force. A convention of the states. It's a coherent structural response grounded in a tool that was given to us. But the risk of a runaway convention, that's not imaginary, especially when you're thinking about today's polarized environment. So when was that? July? That the post he posted in July, that captured it perfectly. Congress has expanded federal power and spending across decades, regardless of which a party is in charge. So electing better people produces a temporary or marginal improvement. And the only durable fix to this is to put shackles on the federal government via the state-driven amendments. And I can see pros and cons for like the incentive problem is structural. It's not just personnel. We just kind of touched on that. The Article 5 was written for exactly this scenario. I agree with that. Multiple practical and legal constraints do exist. I agree with that. It bypasses a captured Congress, which is what we have, and I agree with that. But the Article 5 is kind of silent on some critical mechanics. The Constitution doesn't specify how delegates are chosen, how the convention votes. One state, one vote versus population weighted. Who sets the rules? How strictly is the agenda enforced? I think it was 1787 precedent is the classic cautionary tale. That was the Philadelphia Convention. It was charged with revisiting the Articles of Confederation, and it produced an entirely new constitution. I mean, those are real. Those issues are real. They're not imaginary. I think he's right that personnel changes alone have just gotten us where we are. Repeatedly fail to reverse the long-term expansion of federal power, and that the Constitution does give us tools to correct that. But we need a limited scope model with a high ratification threshold and historical practice around interstate conventions. I don't know, dude. This was a hard one.
remember the balanced budget amendment? So one time I got into Rush Limbaugh and I called him and I apologized for both our senators, Kent Conrad and Byron Dorgan, because they were the one vote. And we've tried everything else. You can't defeat incumbency. Not with like Mike says, with the American people the way they are. With them uninformed as they are, it's too easy. Heck, we're informed and we fall for grifters.
Yep.
So it's the one thing, federalism hasn't been tried. The states constraining the government, states constraining the federal government, and maybe it's the answer. I just thought it was an interesting question, and that's why I brought it to you guys tonight.
Yeah. That shadow of 1787. That's my sticking point right there.
Okay, we're gonna move to our looky here theme. I think that's this. Yep, looky here. That's how we end each segment. We're gonna start with me. Okay. I don't know if you guys saw this. This says, look at the Trump hit, since he took office, 1.3 million foreign workers have left the job market, have lost jobs. Meanwhile, 1.7 million native-born Americans have gained. It's all fine and dandy, but I want you to see this. Okay, the red is the foreign-born citizen or illegal. Look since 2020 at that growth.
Wow.
That's the shocking part of this graph compared to the native-born American.
Yeah.
Since COVID. Had you seen that?
I hadn't seen this, but I remember when Biden was touting all those jobs, and I can't remember who it was. Someone pointed that out. That no, it's not native-born folks that are being employed. It's foreign-born, and it's been a huge problem. I don't think it's been talked about enough. I really don't. And even with these foreign-born people leaving, it's still a big market.
Yes, it's just, still look at the gap.
Yeah.
Huge.
Insane.
Yeah, and I don't think Let me ask you this. It was going to be a question for a future show, but I'll bring it to you now. Trump's popularity right now is not that high. If he had deported all the illegals he said he was gonna, all the screaming in Minneapolis and all around the country, if he'd have done that, would his ratings be higher or lower or the same as they are today?
That's a loaded question. Dude,
Think about it.
he could, but it look ugly.
Yeah, it could be higher though, right?
Oh, 100%. But again, just look at what happened when ICE is trying to go in there and get the dangerous people. Look at my God. They were talking, he's a dictator. He's like, Rob Port and Dustin and all these people are like, oh my God, the optics. This is why we voted for this guy. I want him to go harder. But I if he did, the media would do what the media does. The world would condemn him. I do, like people say, we don't want him taking moms and dads and that are working and yada yada. I do. I think that an American should have that job. I saw some big contractor out down south. They busted that place and took like the CEO, the HR manager, and a ton of people out of there because they're hiring illegals. That's what they're doing. And until we wrap our brains around that and we are able to see through the bad optics and do what needs to be done, we're going to have this problem. I've talked about it on my show. It affects my industry. I'm a network engineer, and people call me more now to fix the screw ups of these foreign people that they've hired. It blows my mind. No, I want the contract. I want the original contract to build out the network. I don't want to come in here and try to troubleshoot what you screwed up because you hired these illegals. I think you should go to jail for doing that. I think Trump should just go B's to the W's. I don't want, and go in there and do the thing that we hired him to do. But I understand why he's not. I understand it.
Yeah, I just wonder if he'd be at the same place anyhow. So, but he'd actually have results. Mike, we're going to go to your lookie here.
All right. Well, here's a headline that you really can't make up here. Set the stage here for you. So, as part of London Climate Action Week, experts world were supposed to gather at the London School of Economics for an event called Extreme Heat, Improving Governance and Strengthening Action Around the World. And what was the topic? The topic was how cities can better prepare for and adapt to extreme heat. Unfortunately, they ran into one small problem. It got too hot. So the Extreme Heat Conference was officially canceled because of extreme heat. And apparently the building didn't have air conditioning, or as the organizers put it, it didn't have any cooling mechanisms in place. Temperatures were expected to reach 37 degrees Celsius, which is approximately 99 degrees Fahrenheit here. Organizers said that they couldn't risk the health and well-being of attendees. So just to recap, the people who are going to meet to figure out how cities can adapt to extreme heat discovered that the building they picked couldn't adapt to extreme heat. And honestly, I really think they solved the problem. Step one, air conditioning.
Guess they're going to meet in Greenland from now on, or Iceland or something like that.
Right. Well, after we take over Greenland, we got a perfect spot for that.
Just picture the guy sitting there and he has a multi-million-dollar idea. AC. Oh my God. Mind blown.
We're going to bring it everywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Ryan, you're looky here.
Jesus.
Well, my lucky here is again another installment of the crazy right back here in the backyard of Minnesota. I don't know if you all remember when Kamala stated that she was for taxpayer-funded sex change operations for illegal immigrants in prison, but everybody, including the left-leaning media, tried to give her cover by saying, well, the government's required to provide medically necessary care for incarcerated individuals. So, well, here's a man that beat someone to death with a hammer and is serving a prison term for murder. And then he also set a fire to the victim's house at that time. He's in the state prison here in Minnesota. He came out and identified as a woman. So, Tim Walz' administration was like, well, sure, we need to support you. You can be placed in with the other women in prison, not, ignoring the other women's feelings of like that they don't feel safe. Well, this guy deserves to be there because, he might get his feelings hurt. And that's, he's not the only one that's done this and gone into said he's a woman to go into the women's prison here in Minnesota. But this guy went even as so far to say to request a sex change operation. I guess he had bottom surgery so that the state was required to provide it to him, but who knows, maybe Tim Walz was front and center watching the operation. But I don't know who paid for it. Guess who paid for it? Yes, the taxpayer. I get medically necessary care, like if you have cancer or an appendicitis or something of that nature, but how in the heck is a sex change operation medically necessary care? These people are insane.
That's the question right there. How is that medically necessary? He's lived 150 years as a dude, a violent dude at that. And now, he has to cut his tallywhacker off because it's medically what is going on? You know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out, cut down some flock cameras, and when they arrest me, and they will, I'm just going to say, I identify as a woman. Think of all the date nights I got covered. I mean, that is crazy to me.
You'll be busy.
Yeah. Has anybody ever questioned that, Ryan? The medically necessary care? I mean, if you ask,
not that I know of.
That's your project for the next 2 weeks, and I want a book report on our next show.
Ryan and I have the same dad, and he's been gone now for
Shocking.
13 years. He's been gone for 13 years, and he was a rough and tumble guy, a truck driver. And his idea quite often was just bring some of these guys to the truck stop, and we'll take care of them.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if you could do that with today's truck stops as much anymore.
No.
Yeah.
It'd be like the Yellowstone show. What do they call that? The
railroad.
Yeah, we're gonna bring them
Train station. Yeah.
to the train station. Bring them to the truck stop, and then we'll take care of them. And yeah, my dad wouldn't have much time for that guy. Leon, you're next.
In the same vein, you got these two fine gentlemen here, Royce White and Inez. I think his last name is like Liberty or Freedom or something like that.
Freedom.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have seen here lately, the WNBA has got their skirts all up over their heads because the whole transgender issue apparently is a huge deal. And you got a couple of people like Sophie Cunningham right there. She's like, what are we even talking about? Women should play in women's sports. I'm like, what are we even doing here? But she got so much pushback. So much, even the WNBA, the leadership, even her coach, even what's the gal that we used to all support? I'm drawing a blank. Really good. She's drawing eyes
Michelle
to
Obama?
No, the basketball.
No, even she was squishy on the answer. The gal that is getting beat up. What's that?
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark. Yeah. Even she is squishy on it. Now she's getting beat up by, the folks that cannot be named negatively namely lesbian black women, every single day she's getting just pummeled by these mannish looking freaks. And when they ask her, she soft shoes on it. And so now you got these two fine gentlemen who are, I have no doubt, are going to be stunning, beautiful, and brave. They put on wigs and they have submitted their application to the WNBA draft. I couldn't be happier. Royce looks fabulous in a blonde wig. I should have submitted pictures of them because they have pictures they did like press conference, and Royce is going all in, dude. He's all in. Don't misgender me. I do this. My pronouns are pay me, and like the whole thing. He's all in, 100%. We're living in a bizarro world right now.
The WNBA then is now calling a league meeting, so that they can define what a woman is, because they're in trouble here. And I got a hunch, guys, I'm going to run this by you. I think they see they're in a bind because I think there's already dudes playing in the league that are pretend women.
I got it.
And they're worried that they're going to be found out, that this is going to expose it. So I think that's why they're struggling. They've got league meetings coming up to figure this out. These guys have basically called them in poker parlance. And I think we've got a couple dudes that are playing in the league that are going to be found out, and the jig is up, so to speak.
Yeah, that dude that went over to Russia. You remember?
Yep.
I every time I see that chick, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that's a chick.
This is going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
How this falls out.
They'll be the first Democrats to define a woman.
If they do come up with a definition for what is a woman, can someone just put a note out to Matt Walsh that we finally answered his question?
He doesn't need to do a sequel.
Nope, doesn't need a sequel. We got it. We found it out, Matt.
Okay, guys, thanks. That's it for episode 13. It was a good one. We thank Michelle for coming on. You better tell us who's on next time.
Yep, sorry, before you get off too further. So episode 14 we're going to be on, and that's going to be August 25th. We're going to have on State Representative Kathy Freilich. She's from District 15. We're going to talk a little bit about her redistricting battle that's going on up there. And then also, we got us legislators have special session coming up September 2nd. So this will be right before that. So we're going to talk a little bit about Creighton and funding for the Veterans Museum, Kratom, whatever it's called. Talk about funding for the Veterans Museum and whatever else we come up with between now and then. So, we're going to see what's on the table and what legislators will be talking about and get everyone's opinions.
I'll be in Bismarck tomorrow. I've kind of taken on this whole Kratom thing. I don't know if as a matter of fact, I should CC you in on some of the emails talking about this thing. Me and you need to talk, Mike.
Yeah, no, certainly reach out. I'll add it to the other 177 emails I've got on Kratom in the last 2 weeks. So, but yeah, give me a call. We'll talk about it. Now that I have your right phone number.
Okay, guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone.